Well, hello, everybody. This is Larry from the Blue Collar Nation podcast. And I'm here with my Finnical business partner, the tech whisperer, Mr. Eric Sprague. What's up, Eric? How are you today?
Finical or finicky?
Finnical. Check it out. Old
How's that
fashionedly
mean?
finical about proper grammar,
Oh, yeah,
as in particular. He made me
true.
get Grammarly this week.
Well, yeah, you can't write.
I can write, I just miss a
Well,
couple
yeah,
spellings here and there.
yeah. That's what I mean. I don't mean the content. I mean the structure. Let's say.
The structure. Okay, I'll give you that. So I saw this thing that said Finnical about proper grammar, which we are grammar Nazis, which our kids tell us.
Yeah,
We
I
correct them on
used
a
to
continuous.
when we used to get resumes in. I would grab the resume and pull out a red pen out of my desk and grade them like a teacher. Why I did that, I have no idea. I just couldn't
It
stop
was
myself.
no, it had no bearing on the position, one single bit.
Zero.
It had bearing on the individual looking at the application, is what it
Yeah,
did.
yeah, totally.
Yeah, exactly. So, yes,
I guess
this is when you need
I was being finical.
totally Finnical. So the word fits quite well.
All right.
So it's all
Let's
good.
move
Anyway,
on to
we got
more
us.
interesting things.
We have an amazing sponsor of this podcast. Eric, why don't we play that clip real quick? And we're back. And we have an amazing show today. We're very excited because we've got Kent Sonnier with us today. I hope I said that right, Kent, because you have that really cool French way of saying your name.
Yeah,
And
it's
Kent is,
Louisiana,
I'm sorry,
Louisiana.
Right.
Louisiana. Yeah, there you go. Kent is a general manager at Restoration Pro, and he's in Louisiana. And I happened to be driving through Louisiana earlier in the year because I was referred to Kent from Donovan. Oh boy, this name. Help me out, Eric. How do you say it?
Nader.
Shakespeare.
Schexnader.
Did I say that
Schexnader from
right?
Veterans Exteriors.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
Shakespeare.
think so. Yeah. So anyway, Donovan referred me. I pop in his place. I bring him a pineapple. He's going, "Who is this guy showing up at my office with a pineapple?" Next, me, Kent. What's happening, buddy? And we developed a friendship, which is very cool. And it's very nice to finally get you on the podcast today, Kent. It's a pleasure.
Well, thanks, fellas.
Yeah, happy to have you.
I hope I can provide
Go ahead, Eric.
content for you.
Okay. Well,
No, you'll bring plenty of content. So anyway, Eric's got something going on with himself. But Kent, tell me, you've got all this background in the restoration and running people and doing things. And you have an eclectic background as well. Tell everybody a little bit about yourself so they'll have a background when we dive into the deep stuff that's going to be helpful to people. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I was born a sharecropper's son. No, just kidding. My dad was a truck driver. Not too much to about my life has made any sense to me up front, but looking back, I was born in Church Point, Louisiana, grew up in Rain, Louisiana. I moved to Opelousas, Louisiana, and now I live in Lafayette. Been here for going on 13 years, I believe. 10 years. I'm sorry. I'm trying to put myself where I didn't belong. But I'm a father of 7. I have five, well, 4 of my own, and 3 are my my stepkids or extended family.
like the Brady Bunch.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, plus one.
And I have 5 grandkids, so we're getting up there, man. I started out in life in the oil field. It's a big industry here, so it was a natural fit. You just find you an oil field company and ride the wave. Worked for a few outfits, did about 17 years of
Wow.
dispatching. Also did, worked on the rigs and stuff. And I found myself working nights as a dispatcher. And one of the guys that I was working with, he was going to college. And I said, well, you know what? I've always wanted to go to college. So I found an opportunity to take a graphic communications class here at the local community college. And I was able to go 7 and 7 according to my work shift. And when I got into the college, it was a big thing for me because, you know, not very many people in my family had been able to go to college. But I found, like, I went in because I wanted to learn graphic design. And then I ended up really loving film and editing. And I, you know, I grew it into my last curriculum, or the curriculum for my senior year as in my class. I was able to develop my own social media um, class. So I had to actually turn in what I've done on Facebook, and it was it was great because I also had started a karaoke business with two of my business partners, and we were kings of karaoke. And so we was doing the local scene, but what set us aside from everybody else that was, you know, providing karaoke in the area was the marketing we were doing. I would go in to each one of the shows. We'd take photos of everybody. We used a lot of, you know, Instagram, posting on Facebook. We got into Snapchat and we did the stories and all of that stuff. But that just carried us through. So I have photos of people having fun since 2011, and every now and then you'll see, you know, somebody will share a picture. Oh man, you remember that night? So it was one of the lasting pieces, that the marketing was what really made the business of what it was. So when I got laid off in 2015, I had the karaoke business. So I was, you know, doing shows. I had my contacts with the community college. I went ahead and started providing entertainment to the students and stuff like that. There's 9 campuses associated with the SLCC, or South Louisiana Community College. So if you can imagine, I was doing, in a week time, I would do 9 different events. And then I was doing, we'd do like 5 shows a night. So I was killing it, DJing, loving it. And I walked into Chuck Doucette's office one day just to visit. And he says, hey, man, I need a project manager. And I said, I know a bunch of people. I'm going to find somebody to work for you, man. He's like, no, man, you come to work for me. And previously, 2008, Gustav.
So how did you know Chuck?
Well, Chuck and I went to high school together. He was
Okay.
he rode the bus with me, and we became
full size bus.
Yeah, we rode the big bus. We was back in a bus too. So
just so everybody knows, Chuck is the owner of Restoration Pros, where Kent is.
Chuck Doucette, with Doucette Services, DBA Restoration Pros. And anyway, we decided that I was going to come to work for him. Well, I decided I was going to come to work for him. And he told me, he says, hey, you know, what we're doing now is not just siding like we were doing back in, you know, 2008 or whatever. He says, we're also doing disaster restoration. And I said, okay. I said, well, what's disaster restoration? He said, well, you remember what we did to your home? My house had a 140-year-old Acadian style home with the, you know, the nice pitched roof. And well, Hurricane Gustav 2008 decided that it was going to take the roof off of it for me and rain in it for 3 days. So there was a lot of education going on in my home on, you know, mold remediation, water damage cleanup, and how to do structural drawing, and Chuck kept that as, you know, part of his business. But I had the opportunity to help with all aspects of that because I'm, you know, hands-on type of guy. I wanted to make sure that my house was going to be ready for this. Happened in September, so we had a promise to my daughter, who Chuck is her godfather, that we would be back in the house for Christmas. And we did. We got back in the house for Christmas. December 23rd, we actually moved in, but we were able to tear the house down to the structure and then rebuild everything, actually do some remodeling. You know, that's those old Acadian style homes, you used to have to go through the bathroom to get to the bedrooms. Crazy layout, and it had like a staircase that had 13 stairs that went straight up into the upstairs, and we ended up fixing all of those problems.
Yeah. So you had a brand new house afterwards. That must have been great.
Pretty much. I mean, we had to put in a little money on it. The insurance didn't pay for everything, you know. But as it were, I went through that same process. So he was like, "Man, you know, it'd be great for you to be able to share your experience with the clients that we're going into their homes. They're under, pretty much duress, and they're having a bad day. So it's going to be beneficial for your experience to be able to help with, you know, the clients that we have." So I said, okay, well, we gave it a shot. That was 5 years ago, and here we are. You know,
This industry gets in you, and you just can't get out, right?
well, I mean, that's the thing, man. I've always been a fairly empathetic person, as far as, you know, I was always the guy that everybody just they feel like they can talk to me, you know, and I'm great with that, and I'm very welcoming as far as that goes as well. So when we're going into, you know, getting a phone call, I still pretty much answer every phone call that comes through here. It's just something that I'm very comfortable with, and I want to be able to make sure that when we do get the phone calls in, and there is somebody on the other side of the telephone line, that they're going to get the best onboarding they can, as far as that goes, setting expectations, letting them know what they can expect, that we know this process, that we're doing this on a regular daily basis, dealing with insurance companies, dealing with, you know, clients with the same situations they're going through, just, you know, setting the expectation.
Yeah. So are you guys doing cat work too?
We we did fairly well, and this is, you know, it's always that you don't want to say you did good during a disaster. That is what we do for a living. We did fairly well for Laura, Delta, and Ida here in the state of Louisiana. We haven't ventured off to doing cat work outside of the state. It's just not in our plans at this time. I mean, we want to stay local. Sure. We want to be the local company that people know that they can rely on us, you know?
Yeah. And I mean, if you're leaving all the time chasing work, then who's holding down the fort? I mean, you have to
regular
be a certain
referral
type
sources.
of company to be able to do that.
Yeah. And I mean, we bought a couple of campers, and, you know, geared ourselves to be able to go out of town. But I mean, it's not a long-term goal or plan for us to be storm chasers. I mean, we're just not gonna, you know, we're just not. That's not our business model.
Yeah, it's a different skill set, definitely, because, you know, to move to just the whole logistics of it is just a whole different beast. And we've had different people on the show before that talk about it. And just to get everybody there and get them housed and fed. I mean, just to start there, so you get 20 guys, forget about it. I mean, that's a lot of work. And you're outlaying a lot of dough.
You don't know what's going on over there unless you have somebody there ahead of you that has been able to scout everything, that knows what's going to be open. I mean, nowadays we rely on convenience stores and grocery stores like it's, you know, we very seldom eat something out of you know, out of the canned goods like department. We got to go get some fresh food and stuff. Um,
Yeah.
with that being said, it's hard. Like we did Hurricane Ida work out in New Orleans, and that's a little over 2 hours away from us. And it took me, and I live here now. It took me 3 weeks to be able to find a place to park campers over there. It was just one of those things that, you know, there was a lot of desolate area down there. I mean, people were going through it, and
Yeah.
we wanted to make sure that we weren't going to be taking a spot for somebody that was also offering the emergency services as far as pulling, you know, putting the grid back together, or you know, I mean, yes, it's important for us to get into these houses and start drying them appropriately and at a good time, in a good timely manner. But we want to make sure that if the road's busted up, we want to make sure that there's a good road for everybody to travel on before we're going look for, you know, the houses to take on. So yeah, it's just not something that we've talked very much about. I mean, we've had those conversations, and you know, hey, one of these days, maybe
Sure.
we'll look for it. But right now, we're trying to build what we got here to where your moms and pops that are still um, living by themselves and stuff like that, and they got a busted water line. We want to be there for those people, for, you know, the single mothers that have a handyman husband at home. You know, we want to be there for whenever they have their little disasters, that we can make sure that their houses are good for them and their children.
So, Ken, you said 5 years ago you came into the industry as a project manager, and I have a question. What do
Yes.
you think makes a good project manager? What are the qualities that makes for a good person to do
I'm
that
glad you
stuff?
said that, Eric. Um, like all good leadership, it's leading by example. Um, hands-on training is something that we do in this industry. It's there's not a bunch of restorers sitting like when I was in the oil field, everybody's son could do oil field work because their dad talked about it every night.
Right.
We don't have a bunch of restorers in this industry just sitting off the side waiting to come to work for us. So we have to build people up, and that's one of the things that we've been focusing on, is the actual training of our guys, actually getting out there and showing them what needs to be done to make sure that they know how to do the process, how to make sure they're not damaging more than they're supposed to. You know, it's being the leader in the field, being out there, working alongside you guys, making sure that they're capable and comfortable to do their job.
It's a lot of sacrifice because in this industry and most of the service industry, the hours are kind of range. I mean, things happen in the middle of the night. I mean, us in restoration, but the same thing with plumbing and the same thing with HVAC or electrical. People, things just go out in the middle of the night, especially in the summertime. You need your HVAC guy there right then and there because you're starting to get so hot, you know, catching on fire. And the plumbing as well. It's a big deal that you need to be able to roll and have that commitment in the leadership. Because
One of the
sometimes,
things, kind of keeping with what you asked, Eric, was when I came to work here. Um, I had two of my sons that worked for Chuck before, and it was easy. It was easy for me to go out there, and provided they actually had a little more experience than I did with what Chuck and them were doing, because I had only done it on my own, you know, and they were doing smaller jobs with him, and but it felt good to go out there and actually work with them. And we got to a point where um, we hired more than the people that were just in my cell phone, as far, you know, as far as that goes. And then
Right.
that's when I learned that it's still going to be needed for us to go out and show these people. But if we build people up, we can get them to train, and then we can focus on getting to work, because that's what I'm really good at. I'm not the best. I'm not the greatest with an old tool. I'll probably cut through a water line, but don't let my guys hear me say that. But
Can't they already know?
I know.
Exactly, way beforehand.
Yeah. But with that being said, it's always good to be able to be the guy to go out there. I know I've listened to your podcast for quite some time, Eric, and I know that you were very hands on. Larry was the face. I get it.
Nope,
I'm trying to be the face over here. um,
no, I mean, the thing was, is, I just had this conversation with another restorer yesterday. You can teach somebody how to cut drywall. You can teach them how to install dehumidifiers and air movers and all the things that we need to do every day. But, there's a theater of business that needs to be done for the client to feel good about the level of service, right? So a lot of my training wasn't, this is how you make a 2-foot cut. It was, when we ring the doorbell, this is, we need to empathize. We need to put property protection down. You need to talk to the client, all those things. So that was one part of it. And the other one, and this was the conversation I had yesterday, is you have to teach the people that work for you the sense of urgency that you and Larry were talking about earlier, right? Because a lot of people come into this industry not understanding that they need us now. Like, I know it's not fun to get out of bed at 2 a.m, but you know what? This is when they need us. So you actually have to train and make that part of your culture. And, Larry and I, we had a period where, we were super urgent because we were partly doing everything with everybody else. Then we brought in some management who didn't share that sense of urgency. And we watched our culture turn into, we'll get to it when we get to it. So we had to make a change and go back to training urgency and communication and empathy and all those things. And that's why we were so hands-on, because we just felt like our clients couldn't get the service they needed unless we were always teaching those things.
Yeah, that I can share that with you, as far as it wasn't always the greatest. We did pick some bad people to be in charge. And when we sent them out there, yeah, we get the kickback. Oh man, we don't need to go out there tonight. Oh yeah, you do. Yes. If you don't go, I'm going. We actually had that situation this past weekend before the holiday. We had one of our techs that was on call. He was a lead, and he decided that he was going to go do something else for the weekend, ride dirt bikes or whatever. And he left it up for the guys, his co-workers that he had, or his team members that he had worked it out. Well, I'm not gonna go. One of y'all can have my hours, but they didn't fully work it out because nobody answered the phone. So with that being said, my PM got up. He went out there. He went secure the job. Made sure everything was good, because like I told him, I said it's either me or you, and he said, "Well, I'm gonna go." So I think we're building that right culture that we're looking for now. As far as what happened with the tech, he's gonna know better next time. Matter of fact, the conversation that I had with him was, people have a funny way of letting you down. So you should always make sure that you're taking care of your best interests when it comes to, I'm the guy that's on call. I need to be on call. I'm not gonna go ride dirt bikes or whatever it was that they were doing. I'm glad that we're able to be able to instill in people that there are values, there are not say set rules, but there are unspoken rules, such as this is an emergency services business. This is designed around that model. We need to be able to be available 24/7, period.
I used to in the interview process. We talked about interviewing earlier a little bit, in that usually like first interview, I'm already talking about this. This is not a job. This is a lifestyle, right? And
It's an adventure.
you got to understand what that lifestyle looks like. And this lifestyle is not for everybody. So if you think this isn't for you, we won't think anything less of you. But you got to know that when we call you at midnight on Christmas Eve, we expect you to come.
That's right.
And not everybody's cut out for that.
I think one of the things that readied me for that was because I was, in the oil field, and I did what was called running casing. It was a 24-hour service. When I was on I actually fell on both sides of that whole thing, where I was always the guy that was ready. I would go work in the shop during the day, and I'd hit all the jobs that but of course, I had like 3 kids at that time, and I really needed, to come up in life. Well, it was like that. You were put on a rotation. When you got that call, you had to run, because usually they already called you too late. So you have to make that time trying to get to either a boat dock or a land location or take a flight. So it's instilled in me that sense of urgency.
It's the same thing like being in the trades. They call 4 different people, and whoever shows up first is going to get the job. And you got to move, no matter if you're HVAC, plumbing, restoration company. You got to get on that ball, that call, because that job is up in the air until it's secured.
That's why a lot of times I'm still the one that answers the phones. Some of our sales staff does take calls from it, because I can't do it all the time, but it's very seldom that I'll give up that. And we've actually been out of town, and this was before I had my sales staff, and my daughter, she says, "Dad, you answered the phone in the middle of the night, like while you were sleeping." And I was like, "Yeah, that's I can do that." He said, "And you were talking to the people like you knew what you were talking about." I was like, "Well, this is my job, baby."
Your kids are impressed with you
She was
and
blown
how you
away that you
conduct
knew
yourself.
anything.
Like,
Yeah.
I've been doing this for quite some time in my life, man.
Yeah.
Well, no,
I dispatcher at one time for an oil field company here in Lafayette, and one of my jobs at night was to sleep, because
there you
I
go.
actually
What?
moonlighted as a dispatcher at night, but then during the day I was a windshield repair guy for glass doctor. Yeah, done a few things, man.
Yeah, I was
But
gonna say, dude, you've had like 10 careers.
I've
So,
done.
so back to the kid thing. The kids notice these things, and my kids and Eric's kids especially. We create an expectation in them by our behavior. Either they're going to gravitate completely away from, but odds are going to say, "Okay, parents are working hard. This is what they do for a living," and that's what they're going to create a work ethic just by seeing it. I mean, sometimes we've all been guilty of it going extreme, and we're on call every single night. And you start ignoring the kids, and that never works out well. But if you have a relatively decent culture where people are helping each other out, it can create a great environment for your kids, working in the trades. And that was something that I think transferred over to my kids. I don't think they're going to get into restoration, but who knows what they'll do.
I look at that twofold though. Like you have that could either teach them one way that they can follow that and suck up that sense of urgency, and or they'll say, "Man, I really don't ever want to do that," and then
Yeah.
they'll choose a different lifestyle. So
Well, at least they're
uh,
conscious about it, right?
I would rather, and this is the type of person I am, man. I would rather have said, "Hey, I taught you this. You made that choice on your own, how you want to, conduct your life." But when my kids were young, it was one of those things that I knew as a father that I had to make sure that they knew how to clean up after themselves. make sure that they knew how to dress themselves before they walked out the door. Not to say that I dressed the boys in suits and girls in dresses all the time, but I wanted to make sure that they knew that they needed to bring a pair of shoes, a pair of socks. You know, you never know what's going to happen. And we had a lesson, and now this to this day we all still laugh at it because I took a roll of toilet paper and I showed them the fold method and the middle, and they laughed, but they were like, I still think about that. Like, you have to teach people the right way to do things. You know, you have to say, "Hey, I told you this." But you have to at least show them. You have to give them an example of it. Now, don't get the graphic that I didn't wipe my rear in front of my kids. I mean, it was a visual.
No, that's going to be the title of the show. I was going to use rode the bus on the high school with my future boss that I work with. Now it's going to be how to fold your toilet paper properly.
Yes, exactly. And the folding method is the true method. It's not the do not wad it up, man.
I'm with you, buddy. And
we should take a poll.
And the toilet paper has to come over the top.
That's right. You know, we actually have a little picture in the bathroom over here.
Thank you.
That actually has the diagram of it's from the patent. It's like
well, that's what I was just gonna say. When I was building systems at our company, it used to drive me crazy that people would put it underneath and it would all just fall on the ground. So I went and looked up the patent, and it's over the top.
It goes over the top. That's
so
right.
Anybody listening, if you don't go over the top,
toilet paper goes over the top.
You're not doing it the right way because the patent says to go over the top. That's how it was invented.
This is going to be the Finnical episode. The Finnical episode on how.
Hold on, Larry. You're being kind of quiet. Are you the underneath the guy?
I have no idea what I do.
Larry
I don't.
I thought.
I'm trying to be aware.
The roll on the back of the toilet.
See, I have
as
found
long as there's toilet paper, I'm pleased.
I have found a kindred spirit in Kent. I've been on this toilet paper crusade for like decades. Nobody's backing me up at all.
I got you, man.
All right, thank you.
Toilet paper episode. That's going to be the title.
No, but you know what, Kent, you're right. I mean, let's segue into training. You know, most people don't spend nearly enough time, energy, or resource training. They just don't do it. They think that people can read their minds. They think that people can just do things. And, you know, it's unfair to the client. It's unfair to the technician. And then ultimately to the company as well, you know, but at the end of the day, I mean, when Larry and I look back, everything that we did wrong, I mean, everything that we thought was wrong was inevitably our fault.
Yeah.
And generally, almost always due to some sort of lack of training or instruction or system, or, you know, they all kind of go together.
Chuck and I had this conversation about 2 weeks ago. It's about us, the problems that we do have right now are, it's because it was a failure on our part to show them, so, you know, to leave a trail, you know, or to get up. And I mean, we are both busy. We both have things going on to try to sell this company and not sell the company, but, you know, to sell
the jobs
that we have. And it takes a lot out of us, you know, and we have people in place, but there's little things that we may have forgotten to tell them, or that we didn't write down and put it in the systems. And
there's so many little things you have to be intentional about that you don't realize, especially with the training. You think people have this down before they get there. I mean, for example, the toilet paper. I mean, I'm being funny about it, but if you want something done a certain way, you have to be so intentional and set that system up and set accountabilities up that it's going to be done. And then you have to follow up on it on a regular basis. And it's a lot of work.
That's correct.
But once
I think it was something you guys had said where it doesn't matter if you if you said it today, it might not be the same set of ears that is listening to it. So you should be able to say it regularly. And like that's the one thing that I try to do at each one of the meetings that I attend with the guys is that our core values. We try to keep all of that to where that's our message each time. You know.
You know, for me too, I came from a sports background growing up, and I kind of tried to run it like a locker room in a way where I wanted the more senior team members to be kind of controlling that, quote unquote locker room, and then showing the ways to the new guys of this is, having a comment like we, Larry and myself and those senior I say guys because it was mostly men, but
Yeah.
even in the office, right? Like this is how we do this. So then, I was always pulling, more experienced guys and saying, look, man, when you go out, you got to make sure that they know, don't be late, don't not answer your phone. Like, I mean, not just this is how you do it, but this is our culture. This is what we believe in. And when we started having daily huddles, those more experienced team members really drove the culture from that point on. They'd be like, hey, didn't you hear what we were talking about this morning? Like we take this seriously because a lot of times it's way more meaningful coming from their peer than from like you or I.
Yeah. Yeah, usually whenever I step in and I have something to say, they'll listen to me. But it's gonna be for the next guy to go back in, and they need to be talking about this in the car on the way to the job or in the truck on the way to the job, and say, hey, yeah, what Mr. Kent said was very profound. You know, they don't talk.
I'm sure they say that daily driving to every job.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Every single time.
Nothing but profound comments. Yeah, but I mean, the only way to really build that culture is you need some influential people in the organization out there in the field with them.
Yeah.
I remember like my big thing, Kent, was I couldn't stand when guys were late. Like I could see the driveway from my office through the windows, and as that time was clicking, my blood pressure would just be going up. And then, well, because you're also wondering, like, are they going to show up?
Yeah.
Are they going to be so late that the other guys have to now do way more work out in the shop to get all the vans ready? Like those things. And we had a guy who was one of our first employees, and he was with us for a really long time. And I could hear him on like the first day of work for every new guy. I could hear him out in the shop going, I'm going to tell you one thing. Like Eric hates late, right? So like you got to be on time, man. Like being on time's 10 minutes early, right? Like he would be coaching them. So it was so much more meaningful coming from him than coming. And then, some of the other guys who had been around a long time, be like, yeah, man, just, you can do a lot of things wrong here. Just don't be late.
Don't be late. Be punctual.
Be punctual, right? Because like that's the absolute minimum requirement, right? Show up on time. So, yeah, those things.
You asked them what happens when you're late with your electricity bill. They cut it off.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. That's a good way of phrasing it, huh? I like it. Yep. But you just set the culture, and that's what happens. Because if you don't set the culture, it's going to happen anyway in any business. And people are like, I don't have time for the culture. Well, the culture has time for you. You just don't know it.
That's right.
And it's either going to be the way you want it or it's not. And generally, the people that are negative kind of run it, create it, and it's a shame. So if you're intentional about it, once you get the ball rolling, it's just like, priming the pump. You put some effort into it for a couple weeks, couple months, and all of a sudden everybody runs with the culture, like Eric was saying.
Yeah.
We had a guy on one of our jobs. We had like an all hands on deck job one night. And then one of the guys said something to one of the clients that was completely inappropriate. And all the other guys pulled him aside and told him to be quiet. And as soon as we walked in the morning, they were all over telling us what this guy said that was completely inappropriate. We had to let go of him right then and there. If we didn't let go of him,
they were pretty much like, if you don't let go of him, everything you've ever told us is BS.
Yeah.
Right. Like
Yeah.
he's got to go. I mean, and they're adamant, like he has to go right now.
Right now. Yeah. And if they had the authority to get rid of him the night before, they would have.
Yeah.
But they were like, this is just completely unacceptable. I was like, wow, look at this. This is really cool. So
Yeah,
that's something you got to be super proud of.
we've given the PM here. He a lot of times he'll meet with the guys at the yard in the morning, and he has the authority to send them back home if they're late. If they don't come with the proper attire, like belts, you have to wear a belt. We're in the industry that we don't want to build that
Yeah.
plumber mentality. You know, we don't want to be showing the crack every morning. You know, you got to make sure you got your belt on, your steel toes. We require them to bring their little bags with their PPE. Um, you know, bring and be prepared to work when you come here. We had a rash of people coming in with slides. You know what slides are? That's those
Yeah.
flip flop looking shoes that.
They thought
Oh,
they were
like
going to wear,
Crocs.
they thought they were going to wear that to work.
No, it was that whole thing that they would wear it when they didn't need to wear their boots. They said. I said,
No.
well, you have to wear your boots from the time you leave your house or you step on our property here,
Yeah.
and especially when you get back in the vehicle on the way home, because when you get back to the yard, you're gonna have to throw your trash and all this other good stuff. So you always have to be working the whole time that you're on the
Those-
clock here. So we had that big conversation, and then we made it a big joke about, and Chuck really didn't like the slides, so we actually gave him a gold pair of slides for his birthday
Nice.
with
That's
the
awesome.
theme from our icon.
That's good.
It was
Slides on his lapel. That's awesome.
it was
All right.
cool.
All right. Well, Ken, we really appreciate you coming on, man, and it was really nice to chat. Let's finish up with, if you had one piece of advice to give somebody who was thinking of becoming a restorer, what would it be?
Run. No.
Or
If I had to give a man advice on becoming a restorer,
a woman. Many women are getting into it as
It
well.
doesn't have to be. Yeah.
person, um, my advice to people is you're probably not gonna love everything that you encounter here. You're not gonna love getting up in the middle of the night to go help people because that gets old. You're not gonna love having to work past 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the afternoon if you're on a job from that morning. Um, you're not gonna like having to always make sure that your equipment is running tip top. You're not gonna like making sure that all of your gadgets or meters are charged. Your cell phone is very important. It's not a toy here; it's a piece of equipment. Um, you got to make sure that you're gonna love this lifestyle. If not, then McDonald's is a great place to work.
Yep.
Chick-fil-A pays.
No, I think that's real. I think that's really spot on, because Larry and I have had to let go many people who were very good people, but they just were not the right fit for our industry. They're just,
just have that.
and they had a job, they didn't know
Any
they
service industry at all. Any service industry.
Yeah.
They just didn't have it.
I
Takes it.
I posted a quote today, and it was something that I just wanted to share. I actually wrote it down. A bad attitude is like a flat tire. If you don't change it, you'll go nowhere.
There you go.
That's something that I had made an actual printout of that, and it used to be in my office, and I don't know what happened to it. I think I gave it to one of the guys to bring home with him.
Hopefully in a positive way.
I was gonna say, did he have a bad attitude?
Did you give it to him? Here, take this home with you. You need this.
Bring it one of his kids, actually. But
okay.
you have to be positive. In order to get a positive outlook on life, you have to be a positive person. And sometimes it takes a little effort, like changing a tire, you know?
Yeah, there you go.
Perfect.
So
With
that's just something that kind of resonated with me. And like I said, I actually posted it today on our Facebook page.
There you go.
All right.
Along with one of the guys
Thank
dancing.
you. Yeah, there you go. All right, man. Well, thank you for coming on the show. We really appreciate it. And we know you listen a lot. So I can't wait to share this with our listeners.
Yeah, man. Thank y'all for having me.
All right. You have a great
If
day.
y'all
Okay.
in Louisiana, come see us, man.
Well,
Right
we have
on,
a
run
mutual
away.
friend.
See you,
We
bud.
got Michael LeBlanc in Lafayette. He's a client of ours. We come over.